Hi everyone, good morning. I wanted to briefly give you an introduction to chapter 1, which is split into 7 parts as you can see there on the screen. The first one consists of philosophical foundations in Sanatana Dharma, which is popularly called Hinduism. There is no ism in Vedic tradition. It is just a pure science. Number 2, Guru Parampara or transmission of esoteric knowledge. And I'll come to this and cover this in detail in the coming podcast. What is Parampara and what is Guru, the Jupiter? Third is mythology and symbolism of the grahas or the planets, parts 1 to 4. Number 4, origins and evolution of Jyotish. Number 5, classical divisions of Jyotish, part 1 to 3. Now I have split this into parts for ease of understanding, because if I do it with AI podcasts as it is there, the content is packed so much that it is difficult for any individual to assimilate all of the things all at once. So it's easier to do it in 10-minute episodes. The sixth part of chapter 1 is classical text Surya, Siddhanta and BPHS or the Brihat, Parashara, Hora, Shastra. But these classical texts in and of themselves can become a whole podcast series in themselves. So I've covered just an introduction to that, few lines of it. It is like trying to cover the entire Webster dictionary in a few lines. So it doesn't do any justice, but it gives a beginning point of appreciation of how deep this science exactly goes. Okay. The last part is Jyotish in the Vedic framework. Now, many people have asked me, how does Jyotish fit into the Vedas, the overall text of Sanatana Dharma or the Hindu tradition? Okay. So I'll cover just the last part of how Jyotish becomes a Vedic framework. How does it fall into the overview picture? Okay. So Vedas or Jyotish falls into the Vedanga. Anga means limbs. Vedanga is limbs of the Vedas. So it is divided into 6 parts. Let's begin with the first one called Shiksha. Shiksha means, loosely translated, it means education. So where the person is educated about the phonetics and pronunciation of Sanskrit, the base language of Vedas. Unless you know how Sanskrit works, which is not really English. English is a very poor translation of anything. Shiksha will give you the phonetics of it, what it means, how is Sanskrit pronounced and why, the phonetics of it. The next part is called Kalpa, the ritual procedure or the codes encompassed in this. Now you can do a chat GPT on each one of them to discover more. So I'm not going to go into detail because there is a tool called artificial intelligence which you can use if you're curious about these things. Third one is called Vyakarna. Vyakarna, simply put, is grammar. The grammar of Sanskrit language. Now, since the whole Vedas are based in Sanskrit, it's important to understand just this first 3. Then there is Nirukta, the etymology and interpretation of words. How do you interpret Sanskrit words? Because Sanskrit words essentially is prefix, suffix, and everything in between. So it becomes a very precise language in terms of what you want to determine, what energy connotates, what cosmic forces are involved, and so on. Then comes Chandas, the meter and the poetic structure of the language itself. That's another limb. And last, what we are dealing with in this entire channel is Jyotisha or Vedic Astrology, which covers both astronomy and astrology. Remember this. The Surya Siddhanta is more of astronomy, the science of how planets move. Long before Kepler could take his first baby breath, this was there for millenniums in the land of India. Okay. So this is a very precise science of astronomy, Surya Siddhanta, which comprises a part of Jyotisha, and astrology, which is part of the 9 planets that we know of, the 27 constellations and so on. So we'll deal with this in this part. Now let's see what Vedas are broadly classified and an appreciation of how Jyotish plays. The Vedas themselves are comprised of two parts. Shruti, that which is heard by the yogis, because essentially all Veda is a transmission, is a channeled information by the yogis, by the rishis of the ancients. They heard it in meditation. That's why it's called Shruti, that which is heard. And this heard, that which is listened to, your ears stand for Jupiter. Just think about that for a minute. All wisdom in India is transmitted from Guru or the teacher to the student by words, by directly speaking into their ear. That's why it is Shruti. Then there is Smriti, that which is remembered. Even your karma plays out in Smriti, that which your soul is remembering to carry out this lifetime. Yes? So that's the two parts. Broadest parts of Veda are Shruti and Smriti. Okay, remember that. Now, how these two tie into Jyotish or Vedic astrology? So, Vedas basically will comprise of Tantra, Yantra, Vedanga and Mantra. Now let's tie all the parts. Vedanga, 6 parts we covered previously. 6 limbs of knowledge supporting the understanding of Vedic knowledge itself. That's the first one. So Vedanga ties into the Vedas. Tantra is more of ritual mechanics of esoteric yoga. Also related to body postures, the yoga itself, the different asanas, everything comprises in Tantra. Yantra is the sacred geometry principles, how you capture the universal cosmic forces of different kinds, different portfolios into a particular sacred geometry aspect, if you will. So Yantra comprises of sacred geometry and cosmic power manifestation. This is how people are able to manifest seemingly magically in the land of India by doing many yantras, because they are invoking that certain cosmic power into their lives. Okay, this is part of the Vedas. Mantra is invocation of divine energies. So all of this plays out. And how does this play out? Let me just recap this for you, how Jyotish or Vedic astrology ties into each one of these. So Jyotish and mantra. Mantras are things to be chanted, mantras to be chanted. Okay, vibrational codes. Jyotisha or Vedic astrology identifies when a mantra sadhana should begin, that is the muhurta, which mantra suits an individual based on the ascendant, moon, atmakaraka and so on, which deity or planet to propitiate the graha mantras. That is, the mantra is the sound and Jyotisha is the timing that unlocks its full potential. What about Vedic astrology and Tantra? Tantra deals with energy systems, rituals, chakras, yantras and deities. What Vedic astrology will provide the Tantra people is it uses both planetary energies, the 9 planets. It uses ritual prescriptions, the kind of pujas, the kind of havan or homa, or one which is the fire ritual, and the nyasa. Both work with divine geometry, yantras and the houses. So tantric astrology is a major branch itself where planetary doshas are cured, doshas or weaknesses are cured with tantric rituals. What about Jyotish and Karma Yoga or Dharma? Jyotish gives a blueprint of karma. What is pending? What is your soul bring in as smriti? What is remembering? What is your soul remembering this lifetime? And what is it here to accomplish? What is mature and can be done? A soul can't possibly do all the tasks all at once this lifetime. It's a step-by-step process. The dharma of a person is revealed through the lagna or the ascendant, the navamsha or the soul purpose, and the dasha or the karmic cycles. So with regard to Shruti, determining the correct time of recitation and yajna. This is where Vedic astrology falls into place. Smriti provides the timing and the graha based context for life events. Mantra identifies which mantras to chant and when. This is why many people are not able to manifest the mantra power properly, because they are not using the timing of Vedic astrology. Tantra aligns the planetary deities and rituals with the yantras, meaning which planet is weak or which is the one troubling you here. What karma was left behind which is unfulfilled or which you have created like enemies in the past coming to haunt you as other people this lifetime. Vedanga completes the six-fold system, providing a temporal intelligence. Everything to do with Jyotish, and I shall leave you with this, has to do with the timing. All of these things have to do with the timing of things. As you can see, it is to do with astronomy and astrology. Okay? So before you go into chapter 1, all of this stuff, just have this in mind and it will help you a little better. Okay? I'll stop here and let you continue with the chapter 1.